Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Wednesday night services. Oops, forgot my bells. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. In the Gata of Atonement, all harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. We'll offer incense. Three vows. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. So y'all are going to have to chat louder. I can barely hear you. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or a child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. Metta prayer. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So this is in Japanese Buddhism, maybe some other schools too, but I know in Japan, today is the celebration of Buddha's birthday. So I'll talk about that during the Dharma talk. But we're going to meditate now, and I'm going to do the Guardian meditations. So this is a good time to it starts with recollecting the Buddha, and I think this would be a good time for that, being the Buddha's birthday. So some of you probably never done this one before, so it's a good one to learn. A few deep breaths. As always, let your abdominal muscles relax so you can breathe deeply and freely, but naturally. And then let your breath settle into a comfortable rhythm. There's no need to breathe any special way. But breathing in, be aware that you're breathing in. Breathing out, be aware that you're breathing out. The guardian meditations are a good way to just set your intentions for spiritual practice. And normally, if you're meditating on your own, you can go through these fairly quickly at the beginning of a sitting, just to focus your attention on why you're practicing, what your purpose is. We'll go a little more slowly through them tonight. So the first of the guardians is recollection of the Buddha. And this is really to set our awareness that we're practicing because we want to awaken. The Buddha awakened. The Buddha was a human being like us. He did things that we could do and awakened in a way that we could awaken if we followed the path he laid down. So there's some traditional phrases that you could learn, but the basis is that the Buddha is unfailingly pure, meaning that the mind of the Buddha is free from clinging, free from aversion, free from the patterns that bring us back to suffering. And that he awakened, and then in his compassion left us a practice that we can do so we can awaken also. So just take a moment, contemplate that idea. The second of the guardians is goodwill. And if you're doing this on your own and you've been practicing with Metta Bhavana for a while, you can just spend a few moments wishing that all beings be happy. We'll go ahead and develop that idea a little bit. So we'll begin with the thought, may I be happy. Meaning right now, in this moment, breathing in, breathing out, opening up to that happiness that comes from within, is found in the present. May I be happy. May I be free from animosity. Let go of any anger, any ill will toward anyone. If any angry thoughts arise while we're meditating, remember this. This is how you guard your mind against wrong thinking. And let go of any animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. Whatever comes into your attention, you can let it go or let it be. Accept it or release it. No need to cling to anything or push anything away. No need to create stress around anything that arises. And if we don't create stress and then nurture it, we don't create afflictions. May I look after myself with ease. The mind may move this way and that way. Just noticing this calmly, compassionately, coming back to the object of meditation. And then let's send this happiness that has arisen out of this practice. We'll share that as a wish for happiness for all beings. May all beings be happy. And when I do this, I like to imagine radiating that thought in the four cardinal directions and then above and below. Do that however you wish. May all beings be happy. The third guardian is mindfulness of the body. That's what we have to work with. For our happiness and others, for our awakening, we have this mind and this body. There's a lot of different things you can do with that meditation, but for now, for tonight, just do a quick scan of your body from head to toe. And so a good way to do this is to pick a spot, maybe the soles of your feet, and bring your attention to that area. And then bring your awareness of the breath to that area. Almost as if you were breathing through your skin. And then if there's any tightness or anything like that, you can let it release. If you find an unpleasant sensation or something that won't go away, just accept it. Remember, accept and release. Let go and let be. So just check in with your body. So it's also good to remind ourselves as we're doing this that the body, while this is what we have to do our practice with, the body is not the self. The body is constantly changing, and it's impermanent. And so the last of the guardians really is a reminder to ourselves that if we want to awaken, we need to work at that now. And there's traditional verses you can do on that, but I like to recall what Dogen used to end meetings with sometimes. He would say, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken. Take heed, do not squander this life. So normally you would do this fairly quickly, and then you'd spend the rest of the time meditating on your breath. You have about 5 minutes for that. So I suggest you start by being aware of the breath at the tip of your nose. And just lightly rest your attention on the sensation of breathing as the breath passes by that touching point. That's the point where the body and the breath and the mind all come together. Then you can drop your attention down to the center of your chest. Feel the breath at that touching point. And then down to your hara, to the pit of your stomach. And then any of those 3 points, just bring your attention there. Let it rest on the breath. If your mind is restless, you can anchor your attention with in, out, or Budo, or count your breaths from 1 to 10, and then start over. Bell will ring twice to end the meditation. It rings the first time, you can bring your hands together in front of your heart. And when it rings the second time, bow slightly and take this time just to be here, wherever here is to you. Be present. And be glad that you took this opportunity to nurture your spiritual life. So, I hope that went well for you. I was actually going to talk today about a couple of verses from the Dhammapada. But then this morning, I got an email from Reverend Koyo Kabose, who sent it out to, it wasn't just me, to all of the senseis and the Bright Dawn tradition. And he said, Happy Hana Matsuri, which is a Japanese word that means the flower festival. And this is coming from his email and refers to one of the three main traditional religious holidays in Japanese Mahayana Buddhism. These 3 days are the birth, enlightenment, and death of Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha. Hana Matsuri on April 8th, Bodhi Day on December 8th, and Nirvana Day on February 15th. So that's the day of his birth, the day of his enlightenment, and the day of his passing away. So a typical service today would feature Hanamido, excuse me, which is a dedicated flower pavilion that houses a statue of a baby Buddha. So if you've ever been to White Sands on the Buddha's birthday, it's kind of a similar idea. Attendees come up and use a ladle to pour sweet tea over the head of the baby Buddha statue, symbolizing the gentle rain that greeted the baby's birth in Lumbini Garden. So at White Sands and at a lot of and at the Thai temple and places like that, usually it's just water that's got some flower petals and incense and things like that added to it. And then Koyo goes on to say, the best Hana Matsuri Dharma message I've ever heard is, if observing Hana Matsuri doesn't include your own spiritual birth, this holiday has no spiritual significance whatsoever. So I think that's a nice thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, is that we're not celebrating the Buddha's birth as much as we're celebrating our own spiritual birth, our own dedication to our awakening. So I just kind of explain this a little bit in context of different calendars used by different Buddhist cultures. Will talk about this particular holiday in slightly different ways. The date varies, but it's usually sometime between mid-April and late May. But most Buddhist cultures celebrate something called Vesak Day, which is the Buddha's birthday, enlightenment, and death, all on the same date. Because in some of the traditional tellings of this story, the Buddha was born, became enlightened, and passed away all on the first full moon of the 5th lunar month, which would be roughly correspond to the first full moon in May. So different traditions use different calendars, and so like Vietnam and China, they use a lunar calendar. Other places in Southeast Asia, Thailand and stuff, they use a different lunar calendar, so it'll fall on different days. But anyway, the story, the important thing I think is to talk about the story here. The person that we call the Buddha, which means the awakened one, was born Gautama and was the son of King Suddhodana, who was the king of the Sakya clan in northern India, which is near the border of present-day Nepal. And his mother, Queen Maya, was actually the king's second wife. He had married her sister, Pajapati, first, but she was unable to conceive. And so he married Maya, her younger sister, because he was a king, he could do that. So one full moon night, while sleeping in the palace, Queen Maya had a vivid dream in which a white elephant holding a white lotus flower in its trunk appeared and circled her 3 times, and then entered her womb through her right side. So this was a sign that she had conceived the son who would become the Buddha. Of course, they didn't know that. They just knew that she had conceived a child that was going to become a great being of some kind. Anyway, the gods were already celebrating this. They had begun rejoicing at the moment of conception. The gods knew that a special being was arising in the world after the long darkness of ignorance. So let me explain something before I go on. So someone who's going to become a Buddha is a bodhisattva, a Buddha to be. So to become a Buddha, a bodhisattva has to perfect a number of virtues, like generosity and patience and compassion and things like that. So once those virtues are mastered, then the bodhisattva lives as a deva, as a heavenly being, in a certain heaven, waiting for rebirth in his final birth, in his final form. So to become a Buddha requires that one be born human, because this is a very unique existence. It includes both joy and suffering, and that's what gives us the opportunity to awaken. So when conditions were ripe on earth, the bodhisattva passed away in the heaven and then enters his mother's womb. So by the time the queen dreamt of her elephant, the gods knew that this bodhisattva was on his way to be born on earth. So there's a discourse in which the Buddha's cousin, Ananda, explains this. And here's what he says happens next. He said, when the bodhisattva passed away and descended into his mother's womb, a great immeasurable light surpassing the splendor of the gods appeared in the world. 4 young deities came to guard him at the 4 quarters, so that no humans or non-humans nor anyone at all could harm the bodhisattva or his mother. Well, after she dreamed about this elephant, Queen Maya awoke, knowing that she had been delivered an important message, because an elephant is a symbol of greatness in that region. So she told the king about this dream early the next morning. So King Suddhodana invited wise men to come explain the dream to him. And they said, oh, you're very lucky. Gods have chosen the queen to be the mother of a great being. So when the time for her birth came, Maya went to the king and told him she was going to her parents' home, which was the custom at the time. And the king made arrangements for soldiers and attendants to accompany her. And she started for her home in what is now Nepal. As her procession passed a garden in Lumbini, they stopped to rest. And Maya gave birth in that garden, standing and holding on to a flowering sala tree. So immediately after birth, the infant bodhisattva took 7 steps in each of the 4 cardinal directions, with lotus blossoms springing up from his footsteps. And then he stopped, pointed at the heavens, and proclaimed, in heaven above and earth below, I am the most honored one. I shall dispel the suffering that fills the world. The heavenly beings rejoiced at this, sent down a warm rain to wash the infant bodhisattva. So I'll tell this story sometimes, and people will come up to me afterward and ask me if it's really true, and do I believe it's true that this infant Buddha walked in 7 directions and lotus blossoms and the dream about the elephant, all that stuff. Don't get hung up on that. This is a spiritual story, right? These are spiritual truths we're dealing with. This is not a science lesson or a history lesson. Anyway, as Reverend Kabose said, bathing the Buddha is a central point in the service on Buddha's birthday. And it's one of my personal favorite rituals. I find it a really profound thing to pour the water over this statue of the infant. The water in Buddhism is a metaphor for the merit that we accumulate from doing good. And so we're really kind of sharing our merit with the Buddha, and which is kind of an interesting sort of feedback thing. We are able to make merit because of the Buddha. And so now we're sharing it back, dedicating it to this infant Buddha. Anyway, another thing you should know is that when you read about the Buddha's birth and these women, sometimes you'll see them often referred to as Mahamaya and Mahapajapati, as if that's their name. So Maha means great, And so it's the great Maya, the great Prajapati, and great as in these are people who did this amazing thing, bringing a Buddha into the world and bringing and raising it. Anyway, Maya, unfortunately, was not to see her son become the Buddha. After she went back to the palace, she became ill, and so she died only 7 days after his birth. The infant was given to her sister to raise, so Prajapati. So the stepmother again became the queen and cared for him as her own, and clearly loved him very dearly. But I think, it's kind of interesting to think about that his mother's death may very well have affected his life and his determination to end suffering. I think it would be difficult for that not to have an effect in that way. Anyway, Siddhartha Gautama was clearly aware of the sacrifice that his mother had made in giving him life, and so he was grateful to her. And after his enlightenment, the story goes, he visited her in heaven, and he taught her the most refined aspects of the Dharma. And out of gratitude to her for having carried him in her womb and brought him into the world. As for the stepmother who raised him, Mahapajapati, she eventually left the palace and became the first of the bhikkhunis, the order of nuns. And so she became enlightened also. So like each of us, the Buddha was born a human being with the same body and mind that you and I have, the same potential for awakening. Through his own efforts, he developed that potential. And we can do that too. Every human being has this capacity to wake up. So I want to close with a poem that's attributed to Mahapajapati, his stepmother. And it describes the Buddha as seen by the woman who had raised him and had gone on to become enlightened herself. Buddha, hero, praise be to you, you foremost among all beings. You who have released me from pain and so many other beings too. All suffering has been understood. The source of craving has withered. Cessation has been glimpsed by me on the Noble Eightfold Path. I've been mother and son before, and father, brother, grandmother too. Not understanding what was real, I flowed on without finding peace. But now I've seen the Blessed One, and this is my last form. The flowing onward of birth has expired. There's no more rebirth now. See the gathering of followers putting forth effort, self-controlled, always with strong resolution. This is how to honor the Buddhas. Surely for the good of so many did Maya give birth to Gautama, who bursts asunder the mass of pain of those stricken by sickness and death. So, happy Hana Matsuri. Thank you for coming. So if you want to, I've got my tablet here. If have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat thing and I'll answer them. And while you're doing that, let me grab the tablet. And I'll just mention to you that, in case you didn't already know, that we have about 3 opportunities a week for these kinds of things. So Wednesday night services, Sunday morning Dharma talk, and then on Thursdays, I'm doing more of a conversational meeting on Zoom. So if you're not getting our emails, you can go to the website, and which we posted here in the chat. If you're looking at that, you can go there, and it'll give you the schedule for those. And I can't remember if I put it on the website or not, but you can email me and ask me for the Zoom link to come to the Zoom meeting if you'd like to. So those, we're not really doing a lot of, I'm not doing a Dharma talk. We'll do a very brief service, and then whatever questions you've got, if you want to talk, we can do that. I'm happy to answer your questions here. It's just because of the lag and the chat format, it's a little harder to do. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Somebody says on the Gata of Atonement that I say all harmful karma, but the service reading says all evil karma. Is there a difference in tone or intent? So I've learned these in like 2 or 3 different settings, and people use different translations. And I meant to say evil. Some communities don't like the term evil because it has connotations that, and it's evil because it leads to suffering, right? So I meant to say evil. I apologize for that. I forget sometimes which translation I'm using. Generally, if it's harmful karma, it's evil karma, but not necessarily. And generally, if it's evil karma, it's harmful karma, but not necessarily. Well, in different ways. So no. And someone says they are having connection issues. The streaming keeps cutting off. I don't know why. There are a number of reasons that could happen, and let me know if that's happening regularly or if this was a new thing to you tonight. Nobody has said anything about that before. But it could be here. It could be a Wi-Fi issue here, an internet connectivity issue here. It could also be, there's so much stuff going on now with people working remote and having remote religious services like this one and all that kind of thing. It could just be sort of overloading some of these things. So I don't know. Let me know if that's a chronic problem. And yeah, the less you're putting up on your computer, the better. But it could be something on my end. I just hadn't heard a complaint about that before. Someone's asking about the Zoom meetings on Thursday at 6 p.m. And if you email me, I'll send you the Zoom link. I probably didn't put it up on our website because I don't know. I probably haven't updated it since I decided to do that. But if you email me, I'll send you the link. And it's just volusiabuddhist@gmail.org. Has this been an ongoing problem, or is it new tonight? Because I've got somebody else saying having the same problem. Well, let me know. Let me know how that goes. It could just be a thing tonight. It could be that Spectrum's having internet issues tonight. If it's an ongoing thing, though, let me know. So before meditation on my own, should I chant or pray? As a precursor? And if so, what? It's up to you. So here's what I do. A typical morning when I meditate, I do an incense offering. I memorize the one that we use at White Sands, and I do that one with 3 bows to all the Buddhas and all that kind of stuff. I still do the guardian meditations. I do them very quickly as part of at the beginning of my meditation, just because it centers my attention, and then meditate on the breath. But there's a ton of things that you could conceivably be doing, and I would say look at what makes sense to you. If you want to, email me and tell me what you normally do, or let me know what what your interests are, or just start somewhere. An incense offering, if you're in a place where you can light incense, is a very good thing to do. Incense is a symbol of our practice. You know, the fragrance of this incense is really the fragrance of our practice. You know, we're letting go of things that are burning away and in order to make the world a sweeter smelling place in a metaphorical sense. So I liked it. Anyway, Sensei Michelle seems to think that part of the internet issue might be us tonight. We have this off and on once in a while. Anyway, so I hope that you can join me tomorrow at 6 on Zoom. And I'll tell you what, if you want, before I close this chat out, when I get up, I'll go over and I'll post the Zoom link in the chat here. I think that makes sense to do. And then you can copy it and save it. Yeah, the metta prayer is a good one, sure. And actually, if you just want to do something to set an intention for a meditation and you don't want to memorize all that stuff from the Guardian meditations, may I be happy, may I be free from animosity, may I be free from stress and affliction, and may all beings be happy is a really good way to start setting meditation, and then just turn to your breath. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, like I said, feel free to join me tomorrow night. The meeting will last as long as people are there asking questions. Last week it was brief. Not too many people showed up, so it was a half hour. But you know, if there's more of you there and you got more to talk about, we'll talk longer. Okay. All right, so thank you very much. I'll do the final dedication, and then before I log us off, I'll post that Zoom link for those of you who want to do that. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering candles, flowers, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of the Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved in the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for all those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for all those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophes, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of all those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, all those working toward the healing of those afflictions. We especially pray for those suffering from COVID-19 and those working to protect and treat them, and to those grieving, to those lost to this pandemic, and to the families of the healthcare workers who have to make the sacrifice of letting them go to the hospitals and take care of people. At this time, we have members of our congregations, friends, and loved ones suffering from disease, who are grieving from losses. We pray for them and send loving thoughts their way. May they all be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabbe sata sadahantu avera sukha jivino katam punya phalang mayam sabbe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. All right, stick around. I'll post that link.